nice bunch of folks here. We really have. It was been a good life. I wouldn't trade it for being anywhere.
And where'd you grow up here in Marlin?
Well, out on Live Oak Street.
Okay.
Of course, the Van family, which was my mother's folks, came off of Big Creek out there. But I've been in business 61 years here, so I've been here a while. March 1st to start my 62nd year. So.
Well, how happy early anniversary.
Yeah.
And what business are you in?
Well, I'm in the tire business, and I'm a shell wholesaler. I was a Texaco wholesaler for 46 years, and then they flipped me to shell. But I'm blessed.
And has it just been the one station here in Marlin?
All on the same corner, across from my brother Knuckle. They had the store across the street. Of course, they're both deceased now.
So you've seen a lot of Marlin's history.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what was it like growing up here?
It was great. Of course, we were all poor, depression. We didn't have a lot of money, but I don't know, everybody knew everybody. A lot gentler time than we have today. Of course, didn't have the vehicles we have today. Things were a lot different. I worked at the drugstore downtown. Enjoyed that.
How old were you when you started working?
Woohoo! Let's see. Still have my Social Security card when I got it from Brighton Drugstore. So it was back probably in, let's see, sometime in the 40s probably.
And so was that your first job at the drugstore?
Well, no, I hopped a milk truck for a while. We used to deliver bottled milk to houses for Hargrove Dairy out here, and I would ride and run the milk up and set it on the front porch. And every once in a while I'd break a bottle, but it was fun.
And when you worked at and then probably next job was the drugstore?
I'd work at the drugstore.
And what kind of work was that?
Well, I delivered prescriptions on bicycle, and then I worked the soda fountain. We had people, and we stayed open 9 o'clock in the hotel. Had lots of people. Of course, one of the hotels had burned down. June, remember all of them, but the Imperial and the Falls and the Majestic were still standing. We had boarding houses all over town. People came in to take the hot baths. We had 2 train tracks and stations, and people would come in on trains. It was really a good time. Marlin flourished during that time. Of course, we had John Connolly, a senator from here, that here, as far as that goes, the VA out here was named after. Before we switched it over to the state hospital, which we were hoping the state would put some more funds. I don't know why they wouldn't. But yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed all of it.
So were you drafted into the Navy?
No, I volunteered whether I wouldn't get drafted.
And so what were you assigned to do?
Well, I went to San Diego to the Naval Training Station out there, and went through Decatur and Farragut, I think, and then came back, caught a bus all the way back out there, and the next day they put me on a train back to Corpus Christi, Texas. So we stayed there for a while, and then to Memphis, and then we went to Norfolk, Virginia, and got discharged from there.
So did you serve on a ship?
No, I never went aboard a ship. I was in Naval Air, and we worked at Fazron 102, which was we reworked airplanes.
Ah, okay, so a mechanic then?
Yes.
All right. And you came straight back to Marlin?
Came right back to Marlin.
Did you go to college anywhere?
Not till after my brother came out of town and said, "You've been playing long enough, it's time to go to work." He had the store across the street. So he hit me at 20 years old, get in the station, right where I've been all these years. Of course, it's tore down now and they have a different one, but so in 1950 I went in business. But then I drove back and forth to 4C Business College in Waco at night. And then I also took a couple of courses out at Baylor in accounting, all at night after it closed up.
So, how has Marlin changed since you were a kid?
Well, we've lost a lot of people. A lot of people left. Of course, our hot baths, people, Carterzone took it over, and we lost all the people that used to come here to get relief from arthritis and all that kind of stuff. And we've just lost a lot of folks that moved out. We had one time we had a turkey plant. We had probably in the 60s, we got a carpet mill and Wallace Business Farms, and we had 3 or 4 different things going, and they're all out of business now. None of them are out there. We don't have an industry here in Marlin at all. The closest one is probably out at City Lake. It works on railroad crossings and stuff, and the next one would probably be Texas Pneumatic. Carl Evans down at Reagan, he has Texas Pneumatic, and let's see, we got one more. What is it? Oh, that pipe company though out at Stranger is kind of just limping along. It kind of folded up. It was booming at one time. But of course, you know, things haven't been too good all over, so that's about it.
And were there any big turning points? I mean, was it the closing of the factories? Was it
well,
the closing?
you know, we had several different things that came along. We used to have 2 segregated schools, and that changed. But we just had all the young people just moved out. I mean, there's no jobs, so they left. Just tough. Marlin's just in an economic drop right now. But it's we're doing fine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing fine, but I don't know about a lot of people aren't probably.
Well, I imagine for your business, losing population is not good for business.
It doesn't, but I've been blessed. I service 18 other stations from Alvarado all the way down to Temple and Killeen, and so I'm still doing all right.
All right, so you've got more than just
yes, I wholesale fuel. So
wholesale fuel, okay. Is there? But there's not a wholesale. Where's your facility?
Out on Live Oak Street.
For the wholesale business.
Out on Live Oak Street.
Okay.
It's, right across the street from where I had the tire business. The tire business is still there, but I built a station across the street.
Okay.
And we have bulk facilities out back. And we have two trucks that we transport trucks, and then we run 2 bobtails.
Okay.
But downtown, when you go through town, it makes you cry. It does me, because I was looking in 1983, one of the chamber deals, how many people and how many businesses we had, and it's just sad. Of course, you know, it's modern times, but Wal-Mart coming to town didn't help. It closes up all the small merchants because they can buy a truckload of clothing or something. And Lauren's, I think, is the only clothing store we have left in town. One time we had probably 6 or 8, maybe 10. Eddie Appleman's the leader, Square Deal, Wilson Brothers, R.E. Cox, J.C. Penney. We had a bunch of people, a lot of grocery stores, of course. You know, all that is what happens in time. Everybody gets bigger, and some people just go out. But you start Main Street, if you start on one end up there, and you got more insurance people, and let's see, you have banks and insurance companies, and that's about it outside of antique shops downtown. You got Lauren's, a dress shop. And we used to have, and Western Auto's still there, Joe Edwards still there. But we've lost so many businesses in downtown.
Well, this was always a mercantile town.
Well, we used to have a ton of people. I mean, we were the county seat. We had people coming from all over. You know, all Franklin, that area. Of course, you know now the highways are better. They can go to Bryan easier than they can come here, but you still got Groesbeck and all that area that could come over this way. And Super Wal-Mart bought the property out here, but they never did anything with it. But you know, that would help, I think, because we only have one grocery store in town. That's H-E-B. But you know, my brother and uncle were in the grocery business for years. My uncle Clyde before that. So I mean, little merchants, so just can't make it anymore. It's tough.
Well, but in other small towns, other county seats in this region have like Mejia and Hearn have kind of done okay.
Well, Mejia, Fairfield, you get a little oil and gas, it sure helps. You know, they've got gas wells and oil wells, and you go to Kasi, Ball Prairie, all back out in there. And at one time we had some shallow wells over around Lott, back in probably the 50s and 60s, but they never produced much. They weren't that deep oil wells, but they'd be nice if we had a bunch of gas wells. I mean, most of that stuff, like Franklin School, I think they're going to have a $14 million new school. I mean, you know, when you got lots of money, you can do that. You just don't have it. Plus, the oil drillers, all that people, they spend a lot of money. They make money. They make good money. Yeah. We've got our hospital is heated with thermonuclear water. Did you know that?
I did.
You know that our chamber office is heated with it. Saves a lot of money. And I'm surprised that somebody hadn't snatched on to that, because to me it would be a great incentive to come. And we're working on that in the chamber, trying to get somebody to look at it.
What do you? What is your hope for Marlin? How do you think it's going to go?
I'm in hopes it gets better, and we're working on it. We have a couple of law professors from Baylor been working with us on getting a little bit better organized and trying to solicit more business and what we have to offer people to come back in here. Our economy in the United States, of course, you're probably well aware as I am, just really not that good, and you don't have a lot of businesses spreading out. Really. Like Wal-Mart has stopped. I think they're doing more overseas than they're doing here now. So. But it's just not that good.
Now we were going to talk about John Tomlinson. And,
nice fella.
What can you tell me about him? I never met him.
He the last few years he was down at the Marlin National Bank, and he worked there. The Tomlinson family over, and there was an article on this. What's the running back football name?
LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Thompson. All right. He grew up over there, and when the slavery quit, the story is to me is that Mr. John's daddy, all of that Goodville area up there, he just gave it to him. And you might want to check that out, but I mean that's what I've been told. And all
Goodville area?
It's right there.
Right off the highway, right?
Right. You go right through it, going through there. But I think all that land belonged to him, and he gave it to him at the end of slavery. Yeah.
I think he actually gave it to them in the 40s.
Well,
yeah, because it was Albert.
But they had already...
They've been living there since before the Civil War.
Right.
Yeah.
But he gave it to them. But he and Miss Peavy were just the nicest people that there were.
Miss Peavy?
Yeah, that was his sister.
Ah, okay. What was her first name?
Miss Langscombe was a sister. But I think her name was Chilton, but her daughter married John Justin. Did you know that?
No.
And this library across the street here was donated by Pauline, the daughter of Ms. Harley.
Okay.
And Pauline Cokie was from Ensenada, and she moved back here when she sold her place. And Jane married John Justin, and they both gave the money to build this library over here.
Wow.
They're just nice folks. I mean, but I knew them all nice people. Just really nice.
I'm fascinated by John because I think, as far as I know, he may. I may be one of the last white Tomlinsons, my father and I, and I never had the chance to meet him. So, what did he look like?
He was a little stouter built than you. He had about the same build, except let me say, I say stouter, maybe a little fatter, but one of the best personalities, and I believe he could have sold the Brooklyn Bridge to you. You know, I just think he was that type of fellow. But he's just as honest as the day was long. If he told you something, you can bet it was right. And Miss Peavy, of course, I knew her better, but when Mary and I were growing up as a daughter, we didn't have buses to haul so we hauled the instruments in Peavy pickup, and we loaded the horns on there, and we would ride in pickups to go to football games.
I see you were in the high school band.
Oh yeah, and, but all of them just nice people. Of course, there were three of those girls, Harley Lincoln now, or Chilton, but there was Maybelline, Pauline, and Jane. And Maybelline lived in Fort Worth, and she died before any of the others died, but she was about a year older than me. Very nice person. I think first time she married one that had an armor packing company up there. And then Jane married John Justin, and Pauline came back here during World War II and taught band while her husband was overseas. And when he came back, they moved to Ensenada. He had a lot of land down there, and if you'll probably look up, he and Darrell Royal must have been good friends because he would sit on the sideline with him. I don't know whether that means he gave him a little money or whether they let him hunt deer on his place. But they were real nice folks.
And that was a Chilton, Pauline Chilton?
Yes, but Harley was a Tomlinson. The mother is a Tomlinson. So there was Mr. John, Nida, and Harley. And I don't know of any more, but that's only three I know.
Okay. Okay. Great.
But Nida Peavy's, or Nida Tomlinson's husband, was the nicest cattle trailer man you'd ever want to meet. And he was in Groesbeck one night, and some kid came through and said something smart to him. And he got up, and the fella got a piece of pipe and hit him. Hit him over the head, and he was never really ever right after that. He just had a tough time, but he was a nice man. Family was nice.
Did you ever have a chance to visit Tomlinson Hill?
Oh yeah. I used to take my granddaddy over there when he gave that section of land, for the old settlers out there, and I used to take my granddaddy and my mother over there. My granddaddy.
So your granddaddy...
He was a van.
A van?
Right,
okay.
And I would take him over there to the old settlers. They'd have it once a year, and then all the old people would go back over there, and they generally had a band or two or something, and they'd have a meeting. But of course, they don't do that much anymore. But Mr. John was always pretty well in charge of that. Well, I tell you what, if the JCs had something or something going on, he was right in the middle of all of it.
Ah, so he was a JC.
Well, yeah, most everybody back then was JC. But yes, he was the JCs.
Because his daddy was a Mason.
Well, I don't know whether Mr. John was or not. I sure don't. I couldn't answer that. My brother and uncle were. I wasn't. But no reason for it. I just felt like I need to spend more time with my church than anything else. So.
And what church did you go to?
First Christian Church.
First Christian. Yeah, James K. Tomlinson settled the hill, and he had 7 sons, one who was killed in the Civil War, and John and Albert Tomlinson. Did you know Uncle Albert?
Yes.
He
was an old man, but
yeah. What can you tell me about him?
Not much. I just knew. I remember him with a cane, but I don't know. Not like Mr. John. I knew him really well. I forgot about him until you brought his name up.
Well, they were the sons of the oldest of James Etheridge Tomlinson. My great-grandfather was Robert Edward Lee Tomlinson. He was born in 1861. His land got flooded in 1900 flood, and so he went bankrupt and moved into town, was a school teacher and was a county clerk. Then my grandfather was born in 1900. and he went to Texas A&M in 1920. And then as soon as he graduated from A&M, he moved to Dallas. And so I grew up in Dallas. But that's my connection. So
you didn't come visit him or anything?
he came and visited until Ariel Tomlinson died in 43. And then my great-grandmother died in 52. And that was the last time they came to visit. And
You know, I don't think it's in here. I should have brought the Falls County one down here. I'm not sure. I'd have to look, but let's see if they're listed in this one. I bet they're not. Yes, they are. J. Thompson, R.E. Thompson, Will Thompson. 10 and 134.
well, see, Ariel's my great-grandfather.
10. There's where each one of them mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. Will is the one that he died.
That's, I guess it's showing him in the Civil War.
Yep, 5th Cavalry, Greens Brigade, and he died at the Battle of Yellow Bayou. That's actually new information for me, so I'm going to write this down real quick.
My granddaddy's uncle that raised him came from Big Creek, Mississippi over here, but Uncle Ed Van, after he came back from the Civil War, he fought with the Arkansas group, and he adopted my granddaddy because his daddy died, and back then, you know, he just gave your kids to somebody else to raise. So granddaddy and his brother were raised by Uncle John, but Cecil said that his Uncle Ed walked back to Arkansas to Mississippi to get back home without any shoes, and said, but he had a van hotel later in Kasi, Texas. He did well, but that it was bad. Yeah, that's like and I'm sure it was back then. Okay, 134. Will and them both are listed there then.
Yeah, James
Okay.
Etheridge,
All right.
and James Etheridge is Uncle John's.
Okay, well, they both were. No, this one was Sibley. This one is with
Sibley's Brigade.
yeah, instead of Greens.
Regiment Sibley's Brigade.
That one is 134.
Yeah, because he was a school teacher, and then he was on the school board later on.
Look at who's on the school board.
Tom Conley.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Now, T.A. Cheeves, and this is the daddy of T.A. Cheeves, he had dry goods stores here and 2 or 3 other places in Texas. He did real well, too. Holloway had Holloway and Son downtown. J.C. Fountain, if I'm not mistaken, they had a garage right by the what's the Falls Hotel now. It's tore down, but that's where he used to have a store.
And this was in
1913.
19...
Wait a minute.
Oh, no.
Cornerstone was laid
Let's put you through school.
in 1917. I guess they were putting the new
Okay, so...
building, the new. Did June show you the castle and the old elementary school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's amazing architecture.
See, but that's the only places that they mentioned. But if you look through, you see her. Bartlett's, Bolivar Faulkner. You know, he's the one that had all the mining down in. Yeah, he was a philanthropist. He married. What was her name? Where she married him? Yeah, they were very. His wife was very gifted to give money to Marlin. The Allen House over there, she gave that, but I mean, he was really, but I think he had a diamond mine or something. Yeah, made the first of his 7 trips around the world. So I mean, he did well.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated Marlin High School, attended Mississippi A&M. And yeah, he died early, but he
Had quite the life.
oh yeah, was private. He gave half of the cost of the building for the Marlin, for the public library department, but that was the old library over yonder.